Welcome to the Daily Beast podcast. I am still Joanna Coles, and I am still the Chief Content Officer of the Daily Beast.
And I'm Samantha Bee, the Chief Content Officer of being one-sided and strident.
Yes.
Enjoy me.
That's why you're here. Let's discuss Lorne Michaels' remarks about you.
Yes. Well, I don't know. Contextually, it's in a book about him. It's a biography written about him. And I get referenced in the book, as I learned on the Daily Beast, as being someone that he does not want to emulate in any way. Like, don't be like Samantha Bee, meaning one-sided and strident. I mean, literally, imagine calling anyone strident when you have built a career out of elevating the loudest guy in the room. But it's fine. You know what?
Ooh, Sam B claps back.
No. It's fine. I
thought it was fantastic that he referenced you.
Yeah, I concede the point. He's right. I am one-sided, and I am strident, and proudly so.
You're strident in those shoes.
Thank you so much.
Just striding
down the street. Mm-hmm.
I will confess one thing. I've never, as I moved here, obviously, as a British person now, I'm an American, but I have never figured out SNL. Individually, I've liked the odd sketch. I've never fully understood it.
That's funny. I mean, it's just in my consciousness. It was something that I watched when I was a kid. It was like such a delicious treat to sneak down to the basement and watch SNL as a young kid. It felt like an illicit pleasure. So it's just always in my consciousness, and I love it. And I love the performers, and I love the writers. I love the writing. I don't watch it every week, but I certainly have admired it through the years. It's never like so exciting when you're referenced in a negative way in someone else's biography that's going to do really well. But I always love to be on people's mind.
I think I've only met Lorne Michaels once, when actually it was the night of the 2016 election. And I was supposed to be co-hosting a party for what we assumed was going to be Hillary's victory. And then it very quickly, by 9 o'clock, was very clear it wasn't going to be Hillary victory. And a colleague said, why don't you come with me to the NBC control center, the control room in the news, because her husband worked there. And we sat and watched the entire rest of the election falling out. And there were two other guys in the room, Lorne Michaels and Steven Spielberg.
Wow.
And they were sitting there, and I guess Spielberg may have been doing research for The Post, that movie he was making about the Washington Post. But I remember him saying there's nowhere he would rather be than in a newsroom on a day like today.
What were the vibes?
Shock, just surprise. I think just shock and surprise, because really people weren't expecting it in New York.
Right. No, not at all.
You know, New Yorkers in particular felt like they had a bucket full of Donald Trump, and they couldn't believe that he was going to be president. And yet here he is 8 years on.
8 years on, here we are. And he's at the Super Bowl and saluting the national anthem. I don't know.
He's watching his talent. He's watching his talent. He looked so proud of Elon Musk, didn't he, at the press conference when Elon was standing there and Donald Trump was just sitting quietly, amazingly quietly behind his desk, looking like a proud stage mother.
I got such a different impression, actually. I mean, maybe I think you could be right. Maybe I need to watch it again. But I felt that he was in agony watching a little child do stuff and like pick his nose and smear snot everywhere. And
You mean X, the 4-year-old X?
Yes, who is adorable. I'm not taking anything away. He's a child. He's adorable. Great. Be a child. But Donald Trump was not like comfortable around little children. He was they were both behind the desk together. I felt that I was seeing the kind of like half smile grimace of a person who's like, do we have to say, am I supposed to say something to him? Like, am I supposed to pat him on the top of the head? Like, what do I do to this with this child that's happening right here?
Do you think he thinks of Elon as the son he wished he'd had?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's very deep.
I just thought he looked like he was sitting there, and he looked sort of like, my work is done. I've got the richest man in the room right next to me.
Maybe. I don't know. I think he just admires rich people who do crazy things. Okay, the story that really did me in this week was the Kennedy Center, and let me tell you why. because it was such a weird thing to do, to dismantle the leadership of this performing arts center, which is so storied, and install himself and his friends to run the board. It was such a wild, weird left hook of a move. And it was instructive to me. It really reminded me of how much I truly believe that he just has weird dreams and wakes up in the morning and enacts his dreams. Do you know what I mean? I had a dream the other night that my cat was walking around a resort in Maine, and I was with my cat, and my cat had little American Girl doll shoes on.
Okay,
and was
you are
pointing
making
out
this up. You are totally making this
and
up.
it was pointing out all the repairs that needed to be done at the resort. And I feel like
Are
if
you
Donald
making
Trump
this up? This is what happens in your dreams. You dream of Susan Collins, your cat, in Maine, where Susan Collins is a senator.
Technically, I was dreaming of my other cat, Jerry, and he was wearing American Girl doll shoes and pointing out all of these repairs that needed to be done. But I think that Donald Trump has wild dreams and wakes up and makes decisions based on those things. Or someone makes a passing reference. Melania's like, I wish I was more involved in the Kennedy Center. And he's like, baby, I'll give it to you. These are so bizarre, and they're so not thought through, and they don't make any sense. And I think that we lack the imagination to predict what is coming next. And that is not going to serve us well. There are just an awful lot of people right now who are like, it can't get much worse than this, right? It can get so much worse, and you have no idea the ways in which it can get worse, because he literally like dream imagines them and then makes them so. So it's not, I don't care, leadership of the Kennedy Center, whatever. Yes, I did perform there, and it was incredible, and I loved all the former leadership. They were great. But that's not really the point that I'm trying to make. The point that I'm trying to make is that our imaginations, our logical, normal people imaginations, are no match for this. And so we just have to plan better for every terrible outcome. Like, I don't know what to say. It put me in such a panic. It put me in such a state. And I don't have any solve for this. I don't have any.
I think this
I
is
don't
the
have
solve,
any.
isn't
I don't
it?
have any solutions here. I just think that it will be beyond our. It will be beyond our ability to predict what comes next. So actually, when people tell me to calm down and they're like, you should just live with it, I'm like, you don't know. You don't know. You can't predict. It's going to get so goddamn weird out there. We are on week 3. Are you kidding me? Like, birthright citizenship was like an amuse-bouche. Literally, wait for it. When he changes all the libel laws and the slander laws, like, wait for it. It is all coming at a speed that we will not be, we are bleeding out, and it is just happening. And the Kennedy Center is emblematic of the kind of chaos that we're about to live in. Sorry. I'm in such a bad mood today because I'm traveling tonight. I'm getting on a plane and I'm going to give a speech at Planned Parenthood. And I gotta tell you, that alone, I mean, I'm very excited to give the speech, and I'm always very excited to be in the presence of people who are doing the Lord's work, in my opinion. But it is daunting. It is daunting. Thank you. I just, that was a long.
Whoa!
That was a monologue.
I had absolutely.
I'm perspiring.
No, that was very impressive. That was worthy itself of a Kennedy Center honor, I think.
All cats should wear shoes. That is my next executive
I'm very
order.
concerned that your dreams are just as addled as Donald Trump's dreams. If you're dreaming that your cat had American Girl shoes on and was pointing out the floors in the resort.
He was like, you got to paint.
It's very, very concerning. But we are going to be talking to David Gardner.
Great.
So we're going to be talking to him. So we can ask him about the Kennedy Center, because I know he has an item about it. He feels very strongly about it. I will say, well, I'm very curious to see what he says. Mm-hmm. And as we sit here, I think Tulsi Gabbard is waiting to be confirmed or not confirmed. And obviously we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
That's been a strange journey. I remember meeting Tulsi when I was at Marie Claire, and we had her in the magazine, and she seemed very normal, straightforward Democrat congresswoman, which is what she was. And then she had that very dramatic stripe, Susan Tontagian stripe in her hair. Which she's leaned into as a style note, I notice.
Looks great.
It does look good. And I'm excited to see her poring over intelligence files.
Are you excited about that?
Well,
I can't say that I share your enthusiasm.
Okay,
for
I was being slightly dry, but who knows? So in the download, where we dive into Beast stories, we're talking to David Gardner, our chief national correspondent at The Beast. And he's a best-selling author. He's got an extraordinary career spanning war zones, presidential campaigns, and of course, celebrity scandals, and possibly both. David has launched The Swamp for us, which we're saying is like page 6 for politics. And as we like to say, Trump doesn't need to drain the swamp because it's all leaking to the Daily Beast. And he's got an intoxicating cocktail of juicy drama from the Kennedy Center, which you're so moved by, to fancy lunch I went to for Jane Hartley, our former ambassador to the Court of St. James in London. And before that, she was in Paris, where I think she thought she was going to have a very stable, easy time, probably sampling wine and looking at fashion shows, and of course arrived for the killings of Charlie Hebdo, the magazine, and then promptly followed by the Bataclan terrorist murders. So you think what an extraordinary journey she had in what you would assume was the most stable and glorious of all postings. So that was a very interesting lunch. She's now back, but that was me fancy ladies lunch, hosted by Tina Brown.
Wow.
Very fancy. Hillary Clinton was there.
Oh my God, a luncheon. What was on the table?
What was on the table? Very nice flowers.
Something elegant.
It was really, it was a very fun, lively conversation of very smart, accomplished women. Arianna Huffington was there. Valerie Jarrett was there, the former chief of staff to, obviously, President Obama.
They didn't give you a +1? I know. Here.
Next time. I will insist on a +1 next time.
Okay.
We'll also be discussing David's recent article. The Eagles won the Super Bowl, but actually Donald Trump was MVP, which I know is going to upset you and trigger you again.
Do you watch the Super Bowl? Are you a person who watches the Super Bowl?
I watched the halftime show, which I thought was truly dystopic, actually. Wasn't as good as Beyonce was. I went to the New Orleans Super Bowl where the power went out, probably blown by the whole Beyonce set, because there was so much energy and there was fireworks and it was just incredible.
Yeah.
So I do quite like the Super Bowl, and I like the fact that the whole of America is watching it.
Did you watch this one?
I watched the halftime show because I've been traveling, and then I watched half of the second half, and then I was like, it's fairly clear what's going to happen.
Just as a Canadian, I can't understand why for so long it was sold to us as an opportunity to watch fun commercials. I really object to that. I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to think that commercials are an entertainment? I don't see them that way.
And we will also have, lastly, our Beast of the Week is Melora Hardin. She's best known as the unpredictable Jan Levinson on The Office, the fierce Tammy Cashman on Transparent, and the powerhouse editor Jacqueline Carlisle on The Bold Type. She's built a career playing women who command a room, but right now she finds herself navigating a very different kind of challenge. After being evacuated due to the California wildfires, she still can't return home. And like so many, her street is now patrolled by the National Guard, and she's witnessing firsthand the brutal aftermath of the disaster. She's got 25 friends who've lost everything, their homes and everything in it. And she's grappling with survivor's guilt, the practicalities of displacement, and the emotional toll of living in a state where climate-fueled catastrophes are really becoming the norm. I thought it was worth just highlighting that we obviously hit a nerve last week when we talked about the Blake Lively and Baldoni case with Leah Wire from People magazine, because we got tons of comments.
Yes, many negative comments.
Many negative. Although I will say, I am quite good at spotting bot comments, and I thought a lot of these were from real people who feel clearly very passionate about Justin.
Yes, people are very passionate. Sam B getting a lot of personal feedback this week from a lot of different sources.
Listen, people take what you say seriously.
I think what I'm learning is Sam B, stay in your lane. I don't think that I should have an opinion about anything that goes on in Hollywood because I clearly don't know anything and I'm just waiting. And we'll all learn the truth one day.
Well, will we? Will we? But I particularly liked this one. I don't know why I keep clicking on your videos. Actually, I do. It's because of the promised guest. But your banter is so not funny. It's unwatchable. It's tiresome and endless, including Sam's insane vocal fry. OMG. Can't you just talk normally?
What does that mean? I don't have vocal
You
fry.
really don't have vocal
Here's
fry.
what I do have. From listening to, and by the way, this is because, not to plug my own thing, but I actually have an Audible. I have an Audible original coming out,
Hooray.
which is
This is the menopause. How to survive
How to
menopause.
survive menopause. And I listened to a cut of it the other day, and I did hate the sound of my own voice. I will say that, but for different reasons, not for vocal fry reasons, which I don't believe I have.
You don't have vocal. Vocal fry is a very specific thing where it's very millennial.
Very
You're
specific.
Gen X.
I take this criticism seriously and I criticize my own self because I think that my voice makes me sound like I think that I'm a character in The Great Gatsby and I'm trying really hard for that, even though I grew up in Canada.
But what kind of a character in The Great Gatsby?
A horrible person. Like a horrible...
Like the horrible person driving
Like
the
I'm trying
Rolls
really
Royce.
hard. Like I'm just trying really hard to sound fancy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would not have said that about your voice, but I thought it was very interesting that this person who really hates us and thinks we're incredibly unfunny would nevertheless continue to listen and leave us notes.
That's great. So small correction. I don't have vocal fry, but I do have a terrible voice, and I can't deny that.
Okay, so score 1 for the commenter.
Sir or ma'am, you're semi-right.
Yeah, we got someone saying that judging Justin Baldoni on his looks because he's a man is really low.
Okay. Sure.
Should we?
I guess.
I guess my issue was that he was the director and the camera lingered on his face so much longer than it lingered on Blake's.
I'm just not going to have any more opinions about this issue because it doesn't feel safe. And I guess it's not. I don't know. I guess we'll all find out.
Well, let's hope we find out.
Lord.
Let's hope we find out because seriously, we got a lot of comments on it. So people feel very passionately about it.
Surprisingly passionately. I wish people felt as passionately about like the actual world we live in as opposed to someone's.
It's partly escapism, right?
It is escapism, but
and the
dear
movie
Lord.
did make $390 million.
What?
Yeah.
It did?
Yeah.
Great.
So, and
God
obviously
bless.
it was a huge hit on Netflix, so I know nothing because I thought
Fantastic.
it didn't make sense, the film.
Yeah, I also
Whoever
know
has
nothing.
had a best friend who knocks on the door with a Birkin bag crooked in the center of her elbow and says, "Oh, I need a job and then I'm going to be your best friend."
You know what? I'll say this. I goddamn love Jenny Slate. I think she's so funny.
Is she the actress who plays that character? Well,
she's
then she should have
fantastic.
complained and insisted they wrote a better script for
She's
her.
a fantastic person and hilarious, and I love her. And that's all I'm going to say.
I think we just need better roles for women.
Well, that's a fact.
We're joined now by veteran journalist and chief national correspondent at the Daily Beast, David Gardner, to get the download on our new gossip column, The Swamp.
The Swamp.
The Swamp, which we think of as page 6 for politics. And Trump's Super Bowl win, because who won the Super Bowl? Donald Trump.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for joining us. I have to admit I've been off my phone for the last 20 minutes, so I assume the whole world looks different. Can you get us up to speed? What is going on in D.C. right now? What's going on in our national swamp?
The funny thing is, you're not joking. I mean, the last 20 minutes, I mean, literally, I think the world did change a little bit. Tulsi Gabbard was just confirmed, and she was the least likely of all of Trump's lieutenants to get in. Now she's so likely that J.D. Vance didn't even bother coming back from Europe. He knew his vote wasn't needed if it got to be tight. So this is... she's going to be National Intelligence Director, head of the spies, head of the intelligence network.
If she's head of The intelligence network, I would like her to tell Usha Vance that when she gets off a plane in the pouring rain, it's more intelligent to wear something on your shoulders. She came down the steps of Air Force Two with naked shoulders.
Oh,
Sorry, David, I took you off track there, as I am wont to do. Please continue.
I sensed fatigue in your voice as you were describing the vote in favor of Tulsi Gabbard.
Well, I hope he's not fatigued. He's only been in DC a month.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, so much has changed, though. I spoke to someone yesterday who'd been in DC, and he was in the Clinton administration, and he's been very closely involved with politics in the city ever since. And he has literally seen nothing like this. It is so different from the normal. Things are changing every day, every moment. And it's like a whirlwind, really.
Well, it feels a bit like the president's changing too, because we're recording this on a Wednesday. Last night, there was an amazing press conference in the Oval Office where a 4-year-old stole the limelight. By the way, can you imagine if it was a woman standing there with her 4-year-old? If Kristi Noem or Ice Barbie, as we call her at the Daily Beast, brought her child to the White House, people would go nuts. But somehow with Elon bringing his 4-year-old child called X, as Donald Trump helpfully told the audience there.
Yes.
He's a fantastic dad.
He's just a remarkable dad. And we were all treated to watching. I mean, and he's an adorable child. I'm not taking anything away from the child, but he was literally picking his nose through the entire press conference.
Do you think he was
the resolute test?
Wiping it on Donald Trump's trousers?
I hope he was. I certainly hope so.
David, we keep distracting you. So it's crazy times in DC, which is why we decided to launch The Swamp, correct?
Yes, indeed. Trying to give a good idea of these recurring characters, Elon Musk, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel. These are characters. I mean, they have very important roles in the running of our country, obviously, but they have rich backgrounds and interesting subjects for us to take a kind of deeper dive into.
Can I ask a question? How forthcoming are people with their storytelling? Do you have people contacting you all day and all night because they have something they want to say? Like, is there a tidal wave of people who are interested in speaking to you that in an unexpected way, or are you having trouble finding people who will speak?
No, we're not having trouble. But what I'm told is how it tends to work is that in the early days of an administration, people kind of take a little while just to see how the lie of the land is, and then they start, have their own little kind of beefs and problems and issues. Certainly, people are talking amongst themselves, and they're beginning to talk to us.
What we do have is a very good prompt, which I don't know if the camera can pick it up here, but it says, got secrets on your enemies, or more likely your friends, that need oozed out.
Wow. I can't keep up. I actually can't keep up. Do you think, did you reflect on Trump's presence at the Super Bowl? He was the first sitting president to ever attend a Super Bowl.
Obama talked to his staff about, he had parties, but they talked about going. So can we not go? Some of his kind of close confidants. And apparently the feeling was that it was a bit showy to turn up at the Super Bowl. And there's obviously security situations, but it seemed to be more the sort of showing off by turning up to a kind of perhaps a fun event. And that did not trouble Donald Trump for one moment. I mean, it was a great publicity coup. Simple. He just had to turn up. He even went home at half time. He didn't hang around. But in terms of actual faces, seeing him there, I mean, it's a vast TV audience, one of the biggest audiences of the year, if not the biggest.
Right, I think 1 in 3, right, watch the Super Bowl.
And he was there on the plane home. He was on True Social talking about kickoffs. I mean, he was talking to a base, and it was just such an easy hit. And the fact that Joe Biden had 4 years when this was kind of his dynamic too, the working class, blue collar, not so much the people at the Superdome, for instance, but the people sitting at home on their sofas. That would have been such an easy hit for him. He wouldn't have had to talk. He wouldn't have had to debate. He could have just waved a bit, clapped at the end and gone home. It would have been great. Instead, he was sort of tucked up back at the White House and kind of disappearing. And I think that was noticed. And even David Axelrod, a Democrat loyalist, was saying, perhaps it wouldn't have been a bad idea for him to turn up.
Why is he so keen to disregard security risks? He does seem to take, for someone who has, survived an assassination attempt. He seems very brazenly, just open-hearted about kind of going into large crowds and embracing.
Did you just say Donald Trump was open-hearted?
Just about one thing, and that's getting publicity. That's it. Putting on a show. But I mean, he does, he's golfing. He's doing all the things that I'm sure his security detail is like, please don't do this.
I'm just astonished that once again, Donald Trump manages to find an extraordinary opportunity to reach people on television that's been hiding in plain sight that no other president has thought to do. And what a low lift for him, flies in and out, huge adoring crowd, half of them boo, he doesn't care, and all we've done is talk about how he's the MVP of the game. I mean, David, your column was brilliant on it.
Well, as you say, hiding in plain sight, it's such an easy hit, and that's kind of I guess that's his talent. I mean, he knows TV. That's the way he works. He works through that dynamic. He has a gift for publicity. That is undoubtedly true.
What did we think about Lawrence O'Donnell saying that he was utterly humiliated by Elon Musk in the press conference, and that this was just humiliating, that Donald Trump sat there, Elon stood, the body language of him standing above the child, it was literally all about Elon. And then you could sort of see Donald looking at him and appraising him as he was doing it.
I felt like you could see him looking at the child and thinking, what do I do? Am I supposed to talk to it? Do I have to relate to it in some way? Okay, I'll give him a little smile.
He was at the kids' table, wasn't he? He was effectively, banished to the kids' table while the grown-ups talked.
He did look physically small.
Interesting.
But it doesn't seem to move anybody. I mean, I don't know what to say at this point. I'm kind of like, he's just allowing Elon Musk to stand behind the desk and say whatever he wants to say with no proof, no nothing, no details. A child is just running around. I'm like, I agree that he looks small, and I agree that he looks weak, and I agree that he is actually pretty weak. And but I don't think it matters. Anyway, that's my...
I thought Elon's comment that the bureaucracy is the fourth arm of government and it's unelected and it sort of digs in and does what it wants actually rang true for me. I think that's what happens whenever new administrations come in, and the real internal strife actually often happens between the government and the administration and the bureaucracy. I mean, I sort of get what he means about the deep state. And I've seen friends, certainly in the UK, take over, think they were going to be able to roll out policies which essentially people had voted for, and then spend their entire time in tussles with the civil service who will not change.
Sure. I mean, I don't think that there's anybody within the civil service who doesn't think that changes can be made and processes can be tightened and things can be better. I'm just not really sure that Elon Musk and his band of merry engineers is the team to do it responsibly and with care. And I'm actually not sure that that money is going to be returned to the American people in the way that they seem to say that it is.
Well, it would be nice to have more transparency on the actual money, what they've found that's really as bloated as they claim, clearly. But I do understand the resistance and the frustration with that resistance when you come in somewhere and you want to make changes and people aren't on board.
Sure, but I think they're going about it in such an astonishingly bad way that there's no way that you can get, there's no way that any reasonable person could get behind this process, I don't think.
David, are all the bars and restaurants full of people talking? Does it feel to be lots of energy in DC?
I think there's nothing that is the subject on everybody's lips, really, and most of them complaining because they don't know what's going on. I think they feel unsafe, and I think there's a distinct sense of chaos, which this kind of daily bombardment of change has created. I mean, it's unusual for DC because it's a 4-year cycle, isn't it? There's like one party has a giant egg time when they kind of put it upside down at the beginning of the term and wait for it to kind of seep out the other end and bide their time. It's more difficult this time because a lot of those people, the bureaucrats we're talking about, no longer have jobs. I mean, they've literally lost their jobs. I think what is kind of lost in all this is that we talk blithely about people being cut here, there, and everywhere, and Elon Musk has a habit of doing this. But these are people with families, with livelihoods, with homes, with mortgages, with bills, and they are suddenly kind of out in the cold and with no real preparation. It's kind of affected the whole balance of Washington.
Right. And people located overseas who have children in schools, who have jobs, who have careers, who suddenly all of their funding is cut off. Medical trials, all the funding is cut off. You have to gather all the patients together and go, oh, by the way, give me back this uterine ring. The experiment is over. Everybody go home. Like, people's lives are being directly impacted by this like cowboy bullshit, and it is making my head explode.
Well, you can go to thedailybeast.com. You can sign up for The Swamp, which we advise you to do. And David, just give people a teaser of what the top stories are on The Swamp this week.
Well, we were absolutely fascinated by the goings-on at the Kennedy Center. This is a kind of a classic performing arts center. It's kind of run independently, kind of, from the ruling power at the time. It's a wonderful center, but it's been thrown into, again, disarray by President Trump suddenly imposing himself as chairman, really moving half of the board of trustees who have been there a long time, who are very much ingrained in life in Washington. He's kicked them aside and put in a former ambassador to Germany, who basically upset all the Germans when he was there, as the kind of performer in chief. He's going to run this place. The wonder is now that perhaps the ballet and the National Theatre may be replaced by military marching bands. It's certainly affected the kind of what we call the deep society of Washington, the permanent elite, the people who've been here a long time, the people with the power, with the money, the people you don't really see. This is a knife has been dug quite deep here, and so we were intrigued to see how that's affected people. And essentially, the idea is that these people, these same deep society elite, effectively ignored Trump last time. They will ignore him this time. They want nothing to do with him, and it bugs him. I mean, it's like a rash he can't scratch. So the feeling is that he's gone into the heartland, into the Kennedy Center, and kind of planted his flag and said, I'm here. You're going to have to deal with me now. So that's an intriguing idea. We've also got Hunter Biden, fresh from his pardon, off to Hollywood, looking for work. He's got a documentary he wants to sell, a podcast he wants to sell, competition podcast.
Oh,
so watch out.
Joanna.
I think we should,
bring him into the family.
Okay, we should invite Hunter on as a guest, with or without his laptop. I will say, I went to the Kennedy Center Honors one year. Reba McEntire was one of the honorees. So was Cher. So it's not like it's a super elite, it's not they're only giving prizes to opera. The cast of Hamilton got an award. I mean, Steve Mnuchin was in the audience. So it wasn't actually, and he was then Trump's Treasury Secretary. So it wasn't like it was this super elite white tie, you've got to be a billionaire to get through the door. I mean, Kelly Clarkson was up on the stage.
It's a performing arts center. Yeah, for sure. But that, for me, that is the story that actually, as I said earlier in the podcast, that is the story that did me in the last couple of days, just because I think, as you're saying, patrons of the arts, kind of people who are at that level of things, they feel like their wealth enables them in some way to ignore what Trump is doing. They're sort of like exist in a different world where they can go about their lives, they get their tax benefit, they hate his guts, they support other causes, they continue to support their causes, they support the arts. And then when the arts get interfered with, that is a super deep cut. That's very personal. And also it's very, as I said earlier, it's very imaginative and it's very weird. And that part is the scariest thing to me. Not that it's not the actual issue that's scary. It's the imagination behind it that is actually it's chilling to me.
Well, the idea of, David, when you say marching bands suddenly feels chilling that we go from Kelly Clarkson and Cher and Hamilton to the marching bands, and a sort of that does feel a bit North Korean. I will say, when I read his note on Truth Social saying I'm going to replace them with the greatest chairman of all time, Donald J. Trump, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel great.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I don't know who's in charge now. Who is the former German ambassador?
Rick Grenell.
Oh, it's Rick Grenell. Oh yeah. Oh God.
Who has absolutely no background in show business of any kind.
So
the perfect man.
Perfect man. He's got great taste.
So
I'm sure.
Billy Ray Cyrus, who do we think will be the honorees this year? Billy Ray Cyrus, Carrie Underwood,
Certainly,
who did do a good job at the inauguration, bless her, when the music went down.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like anyway, we'll have a WWE Raw in the concert hall. It'll be great.
The funny thing is, apparently Melania was talking previously about wanting to get more involved in the Kennedy Center, and then suddenly her husband has dumped himself as chairman. So I think that's a pass.
So maybe this is his way, basically, of just spending more time with his wife.
God.
David, thank you very much. In the 20 minutes we've been talking, the world has turned. You better get back and start reporting on it.
I should say, Tulsi Gabbard is now the National Intelligence Director. It's changed that much.
Look at that.
There you go.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Let's all sit back while we systematically dismantle the national security apparatus. Sounds good.
David, thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We're back, and we are thrilled to be joined by this week's Beast of the Week, Melora Hardin. A seasoned actress, singer, director, producer, artist, Melora gained widespread recognition for her roles in hit shows like The Office, Monk, Transparent, and of course, my personal favourite, The Bold Type. But her experience with the fires in LA over the last month has really had her taking on new challenges. Melora, welcome. I've been watching you cope with just extraordinary real-life drama.
It has been, indeed. Unlike anything I've ever experienced, it's surreal. I mean, that's the only word I can really use to describe it. It's just very odd It's very odd. My wonderful life coach is like, you just have to get comfortable with weird. Because that's how I feel. I said, it just all feels so weird. He said, yeah, you have to be comfortable with weird. Because when you're in my position, which is that our house was miraculously saved. The fire started right behind our house, in the hills behind our house, and somehow just hopped over this little sort of group of 20 houses, but on the left and the right, and then the further you go west, it just becomes just a sea of red, which is just a sea of homes that have burnt to the ground. I probably have 25 friends who've lost their homes in the Palisades and Altadena. And, to be one that obviously is so grateful to be one of the lucky ones that still has their home is wonderful. And then, but dealing with this sort of grief around your whole neighborhood and, my children's school that we went to between the two girls for 13 years, burnt to the ground.
You can't get back into your house, right?
Still not in my house, no, because there's smoke damage and, they have to clean up, and then just the air toxicity of all the things they have to clean up and how that's going to stir things up. And thank God we've had some rains, but like as of tomorrow, we're supposed to have a huge storm. So some houses are really in, mudslide, danger. So that could be a whole other thing. Just dealing with all of that and the insurance company and the amount of phone calls and the amount of meetings you have to have about who's going to come in and, take care of the smoke damage and, and then yet you're still talking to your friends who are just like, they're just talking to FEMA about getting their passports and getting their social security cards and getting their birth certificates. And, it really is weird.
Right, weird and overwhelming. And you've got National Guards patrolling the streets.
Yeah, we had National Guards there as of the third day, 2 days after the fire, because of looters. You have these people that want to take advantage of people's tragedy. The upside is that I've met neighbors, people whose homes have remained. I met neighbors that I never knew I had, some of whom own guns, which was like, this is the time you want to meet a neighbor who has a gun, because really the looters were a real thing. And you're like in your house going, what do I do? And, and now my husband was like paroling all night long the night after the fire because of just checking for embers, because he said, the fact that our house survived, I would never forgive myself if the next night, an ember floated into a bush and caught a bush, which caught the house on fire. And we came back the next day and it was gone. So he was determined to stay at least for a few days. And then the National Guard came in and they were amazing. The sheriffs were amazing. The response was incredible as far as how fast they would come. But they're just, it's very disappointing just in general to be in a state where we pay the highest taxes of almost any other state in the union. And this is what happened. It's unthinkable that we were let down this way, because I think as a taxpayer, that's what you pay for. Almost more than anything. You pay for a fire service to come when there's a fire, and you pay for a police service to come when the bad guys are, are doing something bad. That's what you pay for. Like almost more than anything else, you pay for that. And it's remarkable to think that just where the failures happened in our system. So, and I'm not going to go into that because I don't, but it is very disappointing and very upsetting. And I hope that, some way, somehow, people do get found out and they figure out where all those mistakes happened and people get...
How are people putting like one foot in front of the other? Like, how do you even, I feel like over here, we're not even really comprehending the scale of things.
No, you're not.
It's
true. Yeah, it's true. It's really interesting because even when I was in the mandatory evacuation zone and then we left, that was just what was so bizarre was just 2 blocks down, life was just happening normally. And, that's a wonderful thing about human nature, that we are so, in a way, forgetful. I remember, I had 2 home births, and I remember, having my first child and then, getting pregnant with the second one. It was like, you just don't remember. You don't remember how intense that was. And I think that's one of the great things about us as human beings. That's why we continue to procreate. It's why we continue to build things, and they all fall to the ground and then we build them again. Right. And then they fall to the ground and we build them again. I mean, that is a great thing about us. So it was both, I felt both sort of, that is so strange, but it's also so wonderful,
Yeah, it's like one of those things where you're like, well, I would love if the world could stop for a half day and just try to think about it, because, you don't want it. You're like, I have a lot of friends, and some people were affected, so others were not. A bunch of my friends were like, well, I went to Trader Joe's. Life was normal, terrible, terrified. Everybody's scared, but also, I don't like to think of ourselves as just being part of an anthill.
Right. Well, it's a bit like 9/11. I lived uptown during 9/11, and uptown felt completely untouched. Downtown was absolutely devastated, and people had ash and toxicity and everything to deal with. And then, of course, they've completely rebuilt it. And if you didn't know, because there wasn't a memorial there, you would have no sense that 2 enormous towers once stood, on the west of downtown.
Yeah. And survivor's guilt is real.
Right.
That is actually a real thing that is also very surreal,
So how have you been, I think the term is self-soothing, over this whole period? Because you look, a trivial note, but you do look fantastic.
Oh, that's kind.
And we spent a lot of time getting ready this morning, Sam. You have no idea how many times I changed my outfit, and I've still only turned up in a white shirt with a brown
Joanna
cardigan.
right now, yes.
Yes, you're staying with me. But
Joanna is one of my best friends. We should at least be transparent.
We should be transparent. We should be transparent. But how have you sort of, because your girls haven't been there, they're both living in New York, but you have a cat and a dog, and you've been moving from place to place.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's been strange, right? Because my cat is an indoor-outdoor cat, so he's just like, what the hell is going on? Why am I in the house all the time? And how come you keep taking the dog out? Because we just let the dog kind of roam in and out. We leave the doors open, they kind of go in and out. So we stayed in a friend's apartment. They had an little apartment in Beverly Hills that her husband used sometimes to come do business. We stayed there for a couple of weeks, but it was very dark. It really is a place he comes to just put his head down, go to sleep, and then go to work and come back and put his head down. So it was not a place that we could live with the dog and the cat for very long, but very grateful that they gave it to us. And by the time we came there, boy, did we need a shower. No water, no electricity. We just got our electricity back a week and a half ago.
And you said your Christmas decorations are still up
yes,
because they told you cannot move them.
Yeah, the people that do the remediation, they just basically said, we're going to wipe everything down. Everything needs to be wiped down. That's weird, too, to sort of go and see the house and see Christmas is still there.
Do you feel like you can stay in that neighborhood? Like, I guess it's hard to really have a long-term plan.
Yeah, it's hard. And of course we've gone back and forth and back. You know what I mean? Like at the beginning it was like, like we're going to get out. Like we have no reason to be here. We were moved here to be close to our kids' school and have that community. And now that community is, completely busted up and destroyed and devastated. And, our kids are now, grown and in college and out of college and so forth. But now we're kind of having a love affair. Now we're we go to the house and we're like, just thank you. Like look at you. Been here since 1922, and just, you're so beautiful. So I think we're going to invest in putting the sprinklers on the roof.
Okay.
Which a friend of ours did who lives even deeper, like higher up in the hill, and his house survived, and everything around it did not.
How do you feel? Because I've seen the pictures. How do you feel about? Is it just going to be like living in a building site?
Strangely, if you go out of our front door and you go and walk on the street and stand on the corner and you look out, it doesn't look like anything happened. Now you turn the corner and go 5 houses down, and that house is burned to the ground. And you turn, almost every corner, about 5 to 10 houses down, burned to the ground. But then more houses. So I'm probably. I probably am one of the luckiest, in this situation. But you say, how are you going to deal with it? I have no idea how we're going to deal with it. It changes every day.
Right.
And if I show you on my cell phone, I can show you, I took pictures of, they sort of did red houses that had burned to the ground, and the black houses are the ones still standing. And as you zoom, if you kind of go like this, you see this kind of little diamond shape of all the black houses, mine being one. And you kind of zoom out, and then more red, and then you zoom out, and then you zoom out, and then it's just little black area and a sea of red.
Right.
Just a sea of red. And I had the courage to come in from the east, or from the west, I guess, the other day. Oh, that was heartbreaking.
Right.
It was heartbreaking.
So it seems a bit trivial to ask you what you think about your old mate from the office, John Krasinski, being voted sexiest man alive.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh,
what do you
well.
think about that?
I didn't
seen that.
I didn't even know that.
Not really keyed into that.
Sexiest man alive?
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, how do they even make those? I mean, what is sexy?
Good question. What is
sexy?
Sam, what is
sexy?
sexy?
Is different for every
Wow.
person.
I don't know. I mean, it
Yeah.
feels like you're the expert. You worked with him for all those years.
Oh, you know what? I think
felt
John's
it.
lovely. I think he's lovely, and he's sure. I don't know. I mean, sure he's sexy. I don't know.
It was a bit
I
of a
never
left
thought of
turn.
him
To
as
be
sexy,
fair, that
but
was a left turn of a
It was.
question.
I never thought
Yeah.
of him that way. But that doesn't mean he's not. I mean, I'm sure Emily Blunt thinks he's pretty damn sexy.
Well, I hope so.
What
Is
do
he
you-
sexier than
They're
Justin
they're such an adorable couple.
They are.
You know what? There's so much around pop culture that like I am completely tapped out of right now.
You still have your
I have
Christmas decorations
Yeah, I
up.
still have my Christmas decorations.
Do you feel like, what do you think that you would like? I mean, listen, I don't even know. Like, it's been so difficult to talk about here because I can't even, it's like I can't even,
Yeah, I know.
seeing images, but
That's
they-
very
from
sweet of
these
you.
stories so fast.
What do
Yeah.
you wish that people understood kind of writ large about the whole thing? Like, what do you wish that we were appreciating more? Because I think it feels a little, it's like we're separated from those big like efforts. And I feel it like, I enjoyed watching the Grammys actually, and I enjoyed the
Yeah.
way that they went forward with it. I thought it was so respectful, and I thought it
Yeah.
was so respectful to people who are trying to keep their jobs and keep working. Like, you do have to keep working. But what do you wish that we all appreciated about the whole thing?
I don't think people can appreciate it. You don't know it until you've gone through it.
Right.
You don't know what it is to be a parent until you're a parent.
Right.
You know, it's just what it is. So I would just say, compassion is great, and all these GoFundMe accounts, for people that really need it are great. And I will say that also, yes, I am an eternal optimist, but I will also say that it has brought out really incredible things in human beings. The money that they raised with LA Strong, I think the concert that they did in Anaheim, they raised so much money. That was just so moving. When I drive down the street in those really, really bad parts of Altadena, there's people there still handing out clothes and giving donations. And, so I feel like I think just being aware, being empathetic, being sensitive, and give, and if you have something to give, then give it. And if you don't have something to give, then just be compassionate.
Right. You should all be like Mr. Rogers, looking for the helpers, always looking for the helpers.
Yeah. Just human kindness,
Yeah, well, so I have two more questions for you.
Okay, you want to talk about John Krasinski some more?
No,
John
I don't
Krasinski
actually. They're not John Krasinski.
related.
I do think he's quite sexy.
I love John.
I'm just
I love
say,
John.
I think
You
he's
know
quite
what?
sexy. He's sort of poignantly sexy.
He's fabulous. He's like fabulous in every way. So why not be sexiest man alive? Sure. I'll go for that. Sure,
okay,
that works.
Good. All right.
Sure.
2 thumbs
Why
up.
not?
2 thumbs up from Jan Levinson. One of the things I love about your house is that you have, outside your house, you have a sign from the office which says Michael Scott's girlfriend's parking space, which is so funny.
That's right.
But I was going to ask you if you had any favourites for the Oscars.
Oh, I have to tell you, that was the fire. I can't tell you how many firemen and like the Edison, the electric or whatever, what are they called? California Edison.
Yeah, utilities.
Like all the utilities, the people that had to come and check everything, check the backyard and make sure that everything, there were no power lines and no, and every single one of them was like, by the way, love your sign and love you on the show. Like it was so sweet.
Yeah.
It just made their day. It really did. It was really sweet. Yeah.
So I know that you've been dealing with other things, but I also know that you're a close observer of what's going on in Hollywood. What are your thoughts for the Oscars for Best Actress?
Demi Moore. That's my thought. I just love her. Of course, I have a particular attachment to someone who has the kind of career she's had. She's a real... I love that when she won the Golden Globe, she said, someone had given her, has sort of made her feel so bad and told her she was a popcorn actress. And I thought, great. Great, but amazing to me that someone would throw that at her like a put down.
Right, like an insult.
Like what? Yeah, what's wrong with being a popcorn actress? We're entertainers. So someone wants to sit there and eat popcorn and enjoy your movie? But think about what she's done. Think of the incredible movies she's been in. She was the first woman to ever be so brave to be on the cover of Vanity Fair when she was pregnant. That was before anyone did. Now everyone does that. She was the first person to do that.
That was a wonderful cover.
That was an amazing cover, right? And
Yeah.
everyone was shocked and like, and she looked incredible. And and so of course, like Substance couldn't be a more perfect role for her with all of her. Just we in the pop culture have a relationship with her body because she has put her body forward as a pregnant woman, as a
G.I. Jane.
as a young woman, as G.I. Jane, shaving her hair off, the very feminine thing of having all that hair that she had and then getting rid of it. And, she's just been really brave physically and as an icon, like a pop icon. She has been brave and I think also feminist in her, and having the younger husband and boyfriend for so long and having this really amazing close relationship with Bruce Willis, like kind of helping him, I think, even overcome his addiction, being and having a committed relationship, and now very good friends, like best friends, and now again, right? She's dating a young man again in this way that's like very
modern?
Very modern and very kind of it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me, and she's just perfect casting for Substance and absolutely the best acting she's ever done. She was so connected to every moment of that movie, which I happen to love and just thought it was just such an amazing, particularly the last sort of section, a very masculine expression of a feminist idea, with all that, the excessive amounts of blood and, the way that was done and just the whole,
spraying of the blood.
The morphing of herself. Yeah, the spraying. It was just so like, I was just, wow. Talk about ballsy. I just really thought that was extraordinary. And and really a very interesting expression of a very feminist idea.
Melora, last time you were in New York, you were here because you were playing opposite Robert Downey Jr. in a much heralded production of, I always get this wrong, McNeil. I always want to say McLean.
Yeah,
I don't know why I want to say McLean, but in fact, of course, it was McNeil by Ayad Akhtar.
Yeah.
And your next role is in Santa Barbara.
Yes, I'm going to do, well, it's a premiere of a little play called Parents in Chains. And it's
Parents in Chains.
Parents in Chains.
Yeah, I'm already,
You're
I'm already
intrigued.
listening.
Yeah. It's sort of a la Love Letters and Vagina Monologues. It's sort of a thing that, where they can slip, celebrities in and out, and you can. It's basically a text chain that happens. So you're kind of reading. You don't have to. And they said, would you come do our premiere week? And I think it's March 12th through 6 performances after that, evening performances in Santa Barbara, California, and their beautiful theater there. And I said yes. I'd love to just get my head out of the fires and go do what I know how to do. And it's really funny. It's funny. It's poignant. It's going to be a really fun night of theater, I think. Fun week of theater for me.
So, well, you deserve a break from the horror of what's been happening. Thank you for sparing some time to come in and talk to us.
Oh, yes. I loved it. You guys are really fun to chat with. And, well, it's nice that you guys want to talk about it. And, I'm sure there'll be more to talk about with people who've lost their homes, too, in a couple of years. It'll be interesting to see how people do rebuild. And we will. But yeah, it's a challenging time for many, many people.
And what about the rumors that The Office is getting back together?
That's what I've heard. I mean, Greg Daniels, who created The Office, American version of The Office. I think there is going to be some kind of an Office-ish type new show, but it won't have any of the old characters, I don't think.
Oh, it won't have any of the old characters?
So
we're not going to see a reprisal of Jam?
No, I mean, maybe I'll pop in. Like maybe I would pop in, maybe something like that. But but I think it's all new people.
The dinner party episode, one of the best episodes ever of television. So funny.
It is. It's
okay, babe?
I agree.
Yes, babe.
I love it.
Whatever it was. I come across people all the time with you, and they just want you to reprise it for them there and then in front of them.
I know, it is funny. Well, people have seen it so many times, and I'm always like, oh, the lines better than I. That was a long time ago. I've been doing a lot of other things, like the bow tie.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I thought that was very interesting. I'm glad that we had Melora on just to contextualize things a little bit.
Well, it's just so extraordinary to not be able to get back into your house.
I know. I like hearing personal stories. It just kind of, just to ground, just grounding.
Well, and her house, it's a beautiful house. It's got so many artifacts. She's very artistic, and it's got, every room is crammed with artifacts. You think of it just sitting there under a mound of ash. But as she says, she's one of the lucky ones. Anyway, if you have been, thank you for listening and watching on YouTube. And if you enjoyed this episode, or even more interestingly, if you didn't enjoy the episode, let us know. Like, subscribe, comment, share it with everyone you know and everyone you don't know.
Well, if you didn't like the episode, you don't have to let us know necessarily. Okay? You don't have to let us know, but if you want to let us know, send us an email at beastpod@thedailybeast.com. We also accept compliments, but we really do actually read them all, even though it hurts our feelings.
It doesn't hurt my feelings anymore because the great thing about being British is you really don't have feelings.
That's good.
But if you're not a subscriber to The Daily Beast, it's easy to sign up. Just go to thedailybeast.com.
As my personal muse once said, everyone get out there and just be best.
I don't think she ever said that. And as she takes over the Kennedy Center with her husband.
Oh, God.
It's Be Beast.
Let me say it with vocal fry.
Oh my God, everyone. Be a beast.
I love you with vocal fry. That's very good.
Oh my God.
Is that vocal fry?
That's totally vocal fry. It's like, hello, it's vocal fry. I was trying to explain vocal fry to Ben Sherwood the other day. Didn't get it, but it's Ben's birthday today. So happy birthday, Ben.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.